Anger is something we all experience, whether it's in traffic, at work, or even in our relationships. It feels overwhelming, like a wave that comes crashing down and takes control. But what if I told you that the ability to manage your anger isn't just about holding it in until it bursts? It's about understanding it, owning it, and learning to navigate it with strength. Have you ever felt like your anger is taking over and you can't hold it in any longer? You try to stay calm, but something inside just snaps. And suddenly you're reacting in ways you don't want to, saying things you'll regret, or making decisions that can have long-term consequences. This moment, the moment where your emotions feel uncontrollable, is where the challenge begins. The truth is, anger is a natural emotion. It's not something you can eliminate. It's part of being human. But what you can control is how you respond to it. You don't have to let it dictate your actions, cloud your judgment, or ruin relationships. Instead, you can learn to use your anger as a tool, to channel it into something productive, and to diffuse it before it takes control. In this episode, we're going to explore 10 practical steps that will help you manage your anger, even when it feels like it's about to spill over. These aren't just theoretical ideas. These are actionable steps grounded in both Stoic philosophy and modern emotional intelligence that you can start using today. But before we dive into the steps, let me share a story that will help set the stage for understanding how we can change our response to anger. Meet James. James had a successful career, a loving family, and a good group of friends. But, like many of us, he struggled with anger. It wasn't the kind of rage that exploded outward, but more like a simmering frustration that would quietly build up inside him. He would bottle it up at work, hold his tongue at home, but then when the smallest thing went wrong, like his coffee spilling or a traffic light turning red, he would snap, sometimes without even realizing it. One evening, after yet another outburst at a dinner with his family, James realized something. He felt guilty, but more than that, he felt out of control. He wasn't angry about the small things. He was angry because he wasn't dealing with the real issues, the things that built up inside him over time. He didn't know how to release it, how to express his anger in a healthy way. So, James decided to take a different approach. Instead of pushing his anger down or letting it explode, he started paying attention to it. He noticed when it was coming on, and he practiced taking a moment to breathe and reflect. Over time, this helped him not only manage his anger, but understand it better. He wasn't afraid of it anymore. He could control how he responded. James learned that anger, when managed correctly, could be a powerful tool for personal growth. It didn't have to control him, and it doesn't have to control you either. The lesson here is simple. You can control your anger by taking small, deliberate steps to understand and manage it. It starts with acknowledging it, and from there, you can start working on healthier responses. Let's dive into those 10 steps to handling your emotions and taking back control. 1. Acknowledge your anger without beating yourself up. The first step in controlling your anger is simple yet profound. Acknowledge it. We've all been there, right? You feel the heat rising inside you, your fists clench, your heart races, and your thoughts start to spiral. And then, almost immediately, a voice inside your head says, "You shouldn't feel this way. Calm down. You're overreacting." But here's the truth. It's okay to be angry. So often we try to suppress or ignore our anger because we think it's something to be ashamed of. We tell ourselves that good people don't get angry, or I should be more patient. But suppressing your anger doesn't make it disappear. In fact, it often makes it worse, causing it to build up inside until it explodes in ways we can't control. The key to dealing with anger is not to deny it, but to acknowledge it for what it is, a natural, human emotion. When you feel anger rising, don't judge yourself for it. Don't start that internal monologue of guilt and shame. Instead, simply notice it. Recognize that you're angry and accept that it's a part of the experience in that moment. By acknowledging your anger without judgment, you take away its power over you. You stop it from controlling your actions, and instead, you begin to control your response. It's like holding up a mirror to your emotions. You don't have to act on them, but by recognizing them, you gain awareness. And awareness is the first step in taking control. This approach is deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most renowned Stoic philosophers, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, by acknowledging your anger instead of fighting it, you allow yourself to move forward. You stop resisting your emotions, and in doing so, you open the door to clarity and understanding. Let's think about this in a practical way. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. You've been in the car for what feels like forever, and every car around you seems to be going slower than you. You can feel the anger starting to rise. You want to yell, honk the horn, or maybe even speed past everyone, anything to release the frustration. But before you do anything, pause for a moment. Simply notice the anger. Recognize it. Tell yourself, "I am angry," and that's okay. In that brief moment of acknowledgement, you start to regain control. You don't have to act on the anger. Instead, you create a space between the emotion and your reaction. This space is where you can breathe, reflect, and choose how to respond in a way that aligns with your values. By practicing this, you build the skill of not letting anger drive your behavior. You stop being at the mercy of your emotions and start using them as signals to guide you toward more mindful responses. So, the next time you feel anger rising, don't try to suppress it. Instead, recognize it, name it, accept it. You're not failing because you feel anger, you're human. And by acknowledging it, you take the first powerful step toward managing it instead of letting it manage you. 2. Take a pause and breathe. When anger rises within us, our instinct is often to act, quickly, without thinking. Maybe we lash out, speak without filtering our thoughts, or let the intensity of the emotion drive our actions. In the heat of the moment, it can feel impossible to control. But here's the powerful truth. Taking a pause, even for a few seconds, can completely change the way you handle your anger. The second step to controlling your anger is to simply stop. Take a moment to pause and breathe. When you feel that anger bubbling up, resist the urge to react immediately. Instead, take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you need to, and focus on your breathing. Inhale deeply through your nose, hold for a second, and then exhale slowly. Do this for a few moments. This pause isn't about avoiding the anger. It's about creating space between the emotion and your reaction. By slowing down, you give your mind a chance to reset. This simple act of breathing helps to calm your body, lower your heart rate, and bring your focus back to the present moment. It helps you regain control before the storm of anger takes over. There's an ancient Stoic practice that focuses on this very idea. Epictetus, one of the Stoic philosophers, taught that we can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. And that's exactly what this pause does. It allows you to take control of your response rather than allowing your anger to control you. Imagine you're having a disagreement with someone, maybe a co-worker or a close friend. Your emotions are starting to rise, and the words you want to say are already on the tip of your tongue. Before you let those words escape, take a pause. Breathe in, breathe out. In that brief moment, you're not only giving yourself physical space to calm down, but you're also creating the mental space needed to choose a better course of action. This pause isn't just for anger, it's a powerful tool for managing all emotions. Think about a time when you were about to react impulsively, but you stopped and took a moment to breathe. Maybe it was a small decision, like choosing whether to send a text in frustration, or a bigger one, like how to respond in a heated conversation. That small pause can help you avoid saying something you don't mean, acting in a way you'll regret, or making a decision based on emotion rather than logic. The science behind this is powerful as well. When we're angry, our bodies go into a state of fight or flight. Our stress hormones spike, our muscles tighten, and our brains go into overdrive. But deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, which helps counteract the fight or flight response, bringing our body and mind back to a state of balance. It might sound simple, but it's incredibly effective. The next time you feel anger rising, remember, you don't have to react immediately. Take a moment, breathe deeply, and let the anger pass through you. By creating this space, you'll be able to make more thoughtful, constructive decisions and approach the situation with a clearer mind. This pause is a small yet powerful tool. It's the difference between reacting out of frustration and responding with composure. It's the difference between letting anger control you and using your emotions to fuel positive change. So, when anger hits, pause, breathe, and allow yourself the space to choose a better path. 3. Create some space. When anger starts to take hold, the last thing you want to do is stay locked in the same environment that triggered it. The more you stay in a charged situation, the more intense your anger becomes. That's why the third step in handling your anger is to create some space, physically and mentally. The moment you feel anger rising, one of the best things you can do is remove yourself from the situation, even if just for a few minutes. It's easy to think that you need to stay in the moment to deal with it, but often staying in the same environment only escalates the situation. You're more likely to say something you'll regret or let your emotions carry you away if you don't give yourself a moment to breathe and think. Creating space doesn't have to mean leaving the room or storming off, though that might be necessary in some situations. It could be as simple as stepping back, physically distancing yourself from the conflict. Take a quick walk, step into another room, or even just find a quiet corner to collect your thoughts. In those moments, your goal isn't to avoid the issue. It's to give yourself the time and space you need to cool down and regain control over your emotions. By physically removing yourself from the situation, you signal to your mind that you're in control, not your emotions. This gives you the chance to calm your nervous system, slow your racing heart, and clear your mind so you can return to the situation with a more rational perspective. Think about it this way. Have you ever tried to solve a problem when you were too emotional? It's almost impossible to think clearly, right? Anger clouds your judgment, and it's easy to jump to conclusions or make rash decisions. By stepping away from the situation, you allow yourself time to process your emotions and gain a clearer perspective. There's an important Stoic lesson here too. Epictetus taught that wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. In this context, the wealth isn't about material things. It's about the wealth of control we have over our emotional responses. Creating space in moments of anger is a way of exercising control. You don't need to be a slave to your emotions. You can choose to step back, pause, and return with a clearer mind. It's also worth noting that creating space can also be a form of self-care. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in the chaos of life that we forget to take care of ourselves. Anger is often a sign that something is out of balance, whether it's stress, frustration, or something deeper. Taking a moment to step away gives you the chance to reconnect with yourself, breathe, and recharge. This doesn't mean that you have to walk away from every situation, but it does mean that you have the power to pause, take a step back, and approach your anger in a more measured way. When you remove yourself from the heat of the moment, you allow yourself the space to process your feelings without letting them dictate your actions. Next time you feel anger rising, remember, create space. Step back from the situation, even for just a few minutes. Whether it's stepping out for a walk, finding a quiet corner, or taking a few deep breaths, giving yourself that space will help you regain control and approach the situation with a clear mind. 4. Use grounding techniques. When you're in the midst of anger, it can feel like you're losing control, like your emotions are taking over your mind and body. The intensity of that feeling is real, and it can be overwhelming. But here's the good news. You have the power to ground yourself and bring your emotions back under control. One of the most effective ways to do this is through grounding techniques. Grounding is a simple yet powerful practice that helps you reconnect with the present moment and regain a sense of control. It involves focusing on your physical sensations and what's happening around you right now, rather than getting lost in the spiral of your emotions. Grounding techniques help you detach from the emotional storm and bring yourself back to reality, where you can think more clearly and act more thoughtfully. One of the simplest and most effective grounding techniques is to focus on your breath. When you feel anger rising, pause for a moment and take slow, deep breaths. Inhale through your nose, hold for a second, and then exhale slowly through your mouth. As you do this, pay attention to the sensation of the air moving in and out of your lungs. This helps bring your focus away from the anger and back to your body, calming both your mind and your nervous system. Another powerful grounding technique is to focus on your physical environment. Take a moment to notice the details of your surroundings. What can you see, hear, touch, or smell? Maybe it's the sound of your breathing, the feel of the ground beneath your feet, or the texture of an object in your hand. These simple observations can anchor you in the present moment and help you regain control over your emotions. You can also use tactile grounding. Focus on the physical sensations in your body, like the weight of your feet on the ground or the feel of your hands resting on a surface. This physical awareness can snap you out of the emotional fog and bring your focus back to your immediate environment, where you're safe and in control. This technique is especially powerful because it shifts your attention away from the intense, swirling emotions inside you. By bringing your attention to the present moment, you give yourself space to pause and reset. You stop feeding into the anger, and instead, you let your body and mind settle into a state of calm. Grounding techniques are backed by science too. Research shows that focusing on the present moment and engaging the senses can reduce anxiety, lower stress, and help regulate intense emotions like anger. When you feel yourself spiraling, taking just a minute or two to ground yourself can make a world of difference in how you feel and how you respond. Incorporating grounding techniques into your routine is a simple way to increase your emotional resilience. By practicing these techniques when you're not angry, you train your mind to use them effectively in moments of stress. This way, when anger strikes, you already have the tools in place to regain control. Remember, anger is a natural emotion, but you don't have to let it control you. By grounding yourself, you shift the power back into your hands. You stop being a victim of your emotions and start being the master of how you respond. Next time anger starts to rise, take a moment to ground yourself. Focus on your breath, your surroundings, or your body, and let that calmness guide you to a more measured, thoughtful response. 5. Express your anger calmly. Anger is a powerful emotion, and sometimes the best way to handle it is by expressing it. But expressing anger doesn't mean lashing out or yelling. In fact, one of the most important steps in managing your anger is learning to express it calmly and constructively. The key here is to communicate your feelings without letting the anger control the conversation. So often, when we're angry, we speak in the heat of the moment, without thinking about how our words will land. We may say things we don't mean or escalate the situation, making things worse instead of better. The goal is to express yourself in a way that opens up dialogue rather than shutting it down. One effective method for expressing anger calmly is using I statements. Instead of pointing the finger and saying things like, "You never listen," or "You always do this," which can make the other person defensive, try framing your feelings from your perspective. For example, you might say, "I'm feeling frustrated because I don't feel heard," or "I felt upset when that happened." By using I statements, you take ownership of your emotions and communicate them in a non-blaming way. This technique is grounded in a core Stoic principle. We cannot control others, but we can control our own actions and reactions. When you take responsibility for your feelings and express them calmly, you are not only managing your own anger, but you are also encouraging healthier communication. The Stoics taught that virtue lies in self-control, and that means taking control of how you respond, not just to external events, but to the internal emotional reactions that those events trigger. By expressing your anger calmly, you're also showing respect for the other person involved. When we react impulsively or aggressively, it's easy to forget that the other person has their own emotions and perspective. But when you communicate with clarity and respect, you make it easier for the other person to understand your feelings and respond appropriately. This creates a space for a productive conversation, where both parties can express themselves without escalating the conflict. Another important aspect of expressing anger calmly is timing. There are times when it's best to hold off on expressing your anger immediately. If you're too worked up, it may be better to wait until you've cooled down and can think more clearly. The Stoics often emphasize the importance of reflection before action. When you express anger in the heat of the moment, you risk saying things you'll regret. But when you take the time to gather your thoughts, you can communicate more effectively and with a greater sense of control. One simple exercise is to pause before you speak. Take a moment to breathe, reflect on what you want to say, and think about the impact your words will have. This brief pause can make all the difference in preventing a situation from escalating. The Stoics also remind us that emotions like anger are natural, but how we handle them determines our character. By choosing to express anger calmly, you practice self-discipline. You stop the impulse to lash out, and instead, you consciously decide how you want to engage with the situation. This is the power of choice. Next time you feel the urge to express your anger, remember that it's not about suppressing it. It's about expressing it in a way that aligns with your values and your goals. Use I statements. Take a moment to reflect and choose to communicate calmly and respectfully. By doing so, you transform your anger from a destructive force into a tool for better communication and deeper understanding. 6. Focus on finding a solution. When we're angry, it's easy to get caught up in the emotions of the moment. We focus on how wrong the situation is, how hurt we feel, or how unfair everything seems. But while this emotional reaction is natural, it's also a trap. Dwelling on anger and frustration doesn't solve the problem. It only feeds the negative emotions. The next step in managing your anger is to shift your focus from the emotion to the solution. Instead of spiraling into more anger or frustration, ask yourself, what can I do about this? By focusing on finding a solution, you turn your emotional energy into something productive. The Stoics taught us to focus on what's within our control and to let go of what we can't change. In the context of anger, this means that rather than fixating on what triggered the anger, you should ask yourself, what action can I take to resolve this, or at least make it better? This simple shift in focus transforms anger from a destructive force into a powerful motivator for positive change. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're having a disagreement with a colleague at work. Your frustration is rising because you feel that they're not respecting your time. Instead of continuing to ruminate on how unfair it is or getting upset about their behavior, take a moment to pause and think about the bigger picture. Ask yourself, what's the best way to approach this? How can I address the issue constructively? By shifting your focus from blame to solution, you break the cycle of anger and give yourself an opportunity to solve the problem. You might decide to calmly explain how you feel and why it's important to respect each other's time, or you might propose a new way of handling things to prevent future issues. The key is to use the anger as a source of motivation to make things better, rather than letting it cloud your judgment and prevent you from taking positive action. Focusing on solutions doesn't mean ignoring your emotions or pretending the situation isn't frustrating. It's about recognizing that while you can't always control what happens to you, you do have control over how you respond. This mindset is essential for self-discipline because it allows you to turn challenges into opportunities for growth. Another benefit of focusing on solutions is that it helps you feel more in control. When you focus only on the problem and the emotions it's creating, you can feel overwhelmed and helpless. But when you focus on what you can do to fix things, you regain a sense of agency. This empowers you to take charge of the situation instead of letting it control you. The next time you feel angry, try asking yourself, what can I do about this? Shift your energy away from the negative feelings and toward finding a solution. It could be as simple as having a conversation, setting boundaries, or making a change in your environment. The point is, by focusing on solutions, you direct your energy in a constructive way that moves you forward. Self-discipline is about taking action, not just reacting to circumstances. And when you focus on finding solutions, you take back control over your emotions and create a path forward, even in the face of frustration. 7. Know what triggers you. Have you ever found yourself suddenly boiling with anger over something that, in hindsight, seems trivial? The truth is, we all have triggers, things, situations, or people that set us off without warning. Sometimes we don't even realize what's happening until the anger is already taking over. But here's the power in recognizing your triggers. Once you know what sets you off, you can take steps to prevent it from controlling you. The seventh step in managing your anger is to know your triggers. Pay attention to the situations or actions that consistently cause you to get angry. Is it when someone interrupts you? Is it when you feel disrespected or unheard? Or maybe it's when you're under pressure and the smallest inconvenience pushes you over the edge. Identifying your triggers is like shining a light on the things that are most likely to spark your anger, giving you a chance to prepare and manage your emotions before they explode. The Stoics believed that knowledge of ourselves was key to living a virtuous life. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions, no less than his capacity to control his own nature." Knowing what triggers you gives you the ability to better control your nature and, ultimately, your emotional responses. Once you've identified your triggers, the next step is to create strategies to deal with them. The goal is not to avoid the triggers completely, some are beyond our control, but to be prepared when they arise. For example, if you know that being interrupted in a conversation triggers your anger, you can practice pausing before responding and taking a deep breath. If you're aware that stress builds up quickly when you're overloaded at work, you can set boundaries with your time, prioritize tasks, and build in moments of rest to reduce that pressure. Knowing your triggers also helps you communicate more effectively. If you understand what sets you off, you can talk about it with others and set clear expectations. For instance, if you're often angered by someone's tone of voice, explaining that calmly to them allows them to understand your perspective. By recognizing your own triggers and sharing them with others, you create an environment where both parties are more mindful of each other's needs. Another helpful technique is mindfulness. By practicing mindfulness, you learn to stay present and aware of your emotional state before anger has the chance to take over. When you feel the tension building, take a mental step back and notice the trigger, whether it's a thought, a word, or a situation. By acknowledging it in the moment, you can make a conscious choice to respond instead of react. It's important to remember that triggers don't define you. They are simply patterns in your emotional responses, and once you identify them, you have the power to change how you respond. By taking the time to understand your triggers, you build emotional resilience and greater self-awareness, two key components of self-discipline. The next time you feel anger rising, pause and ask yourself, what's really triggering this reaction? Understanding your triggers gives you the opportunity to choose a more controlled response. With practice, you'll find that your emotional responses become less automatic, and you'll be able to navigate challenging situations with greater ease. 8. Get moving. When anger takes hold, it can feel like a powerful force, weighing you down and clouding your mind. But one of the most effective ways to break free from that grip is to move your body. Physical activity isn't just good for your health, it's a powerful tool for managing emotions, particularly anger. Exercise helps release pent-up tension, reduces stress, and clears your mind, making it easier to approach difficult situations with a calm and balanced mindset. The 8th step in managing your anger is to get moving. Whether it's going for a run, doing yoga, or even just taking a brisk walk, moving your body helps release the buildup of energy and stress that often fuels anger. Exercise triggers the release of endorphins, the body's natural mood enhancers, which help to calm your mind and reduce negative emotions. Think about it. Have you ever felt that surge of relief after getting a good workout in? When you push your body, Whether it's through intense physical activity or just a few stretches, it helps to release the intensity of your anger. In fact, exercise is one of the most effective ways to physically diffuse anger, providing an outlet for all the tension that's accumulated in your body. It shifts your focus away from what's angering you and towards something productive and positive. There's a reason why physical activity is often recommended as part of a stress management plan. The effects of anger are often felt physically: tight muscles, a racing heart, shallow breathing. Exercise counteracts these physical symptoms, bringing your body back to a state of calm. The simple act of moving your body can reset your nervous system, lowering the adrenaline and cortisol levels that are triggered by anger. This doesn't mean you need to hit the gym for hours or run a marathon. Even a short burst of movement can make a big difference. Go for a quick jog, stretch, or do a few jumping jacks. If you're at home or work, step outside for a brisk walk. It's not about pushing yourself to exhaustion. It's about giving your body the opportunity to release the energy that's fueling your anger. Incorporating regular exercise into your routine doesn't just help you manage anger in the moment. It also builds emotional resilience over time. As you become more physically fit, you'll find that you handle stress and anger with more ease. You'll be less likely to be overwhelmed by intense emotions because your body will be better equipped to deal with them. Exercise gives you more control over your physical and emotional state, helping you stay calm under pressure. Stoic philosophers such as Seneca recognized the value of taking care of one's body. Seneca often wrote about the importance of physical well-being in maintaining a balanced mind. His teachings remind us that self-discipline isn't just about controlling our thoughts and emotions. It's also about caring for our physical health. Moving your body is a way of honoring both your mental and physical well-being. So, the next time anger starts to take over, try getting moving. Don't sit there letting it simmer. Get up, stretch, walk, or do something that gets your blood flowing. It'll help clear your mind, calm your body, and give you the emotional reset you need to respond to the situation thoughtfully. 9. Give yourself time to cool down. Sometimes the best response to anger is to do nothing at all, not in the sense of avoiding the issue, but in the sense of taking the time you need to cool down before acting. We live in a world that often pushes us to react instantly, especially in moments of emotional intensity. But the truth is, rushing to resolve something when you're angry can lead to decisions you might regret later. Taking time to cool off doesn't mean ignoring the issue. It means giving yourself the space to process your emotions and approach the situation with a clearer head. The 9th step in managing your anger is to give yourself time to cool down. When you're angry, your body is flooded with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals are essential for dealing with immediate threats, but they can cloud your judgment and impair your ability to think rationally. By taking a break, you give your body the chance to reset. This simple act of stepping away can help you regain control and return to the situation with a clearer, calmer mindset. This doesn't mean you need to walk away from every conflict or avoid difficult conversations. It simply means that when anger rises, it's okay to pause before reacting. Sometimes, just a few minutes of silence or a brief walk can help you cool down enough to approach the situation thoughtfully. The time you take to step back and breathe will give you the space to consider your options, reflect on what's truly important, and decide how to proceed with intention. In fact, the Stoics themselves emphasize the importance of taking a step back in moments of emotional turmoil. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to be patient and reflective in his meditations, writing, "When you are about to get angry, remind yourself, I'm about to act in a way that will harm me and others." By recognizing the power of emotion and giving yourself the time to reflect before acting, you allow yourself the opportunity to make better decisions. Think about a time when you reacted in anger without cooling down first. Maybe you said something harsh, acted impulsively, or allowed the situation to escalate. Now, imagine how much better the outcome would have been if you had taken a moment to pause, reflect, and choose your response from a place of calm. Giving yourself time to cool down isn't about avoiding the issue. It's about handling it in a way that leads to a positive outcome. Remember, cooling down doesn't mean you'll lose control of the situation. It means you gain control over yourself. By taking a step back, you can return to the situation with a level head, allowing you to express your feelings calmly, listen more effectively, and resolve the conflict with clarity. Taking time to cool down also involves being compassionate with yourself. Don't beat yourself up for feeling angry. Anger is a natural human emotion, but how we handle it makes all the difference. If you've made a mistake or acted impulsively, give yourself the grace to reflect, learn, and do better next time. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. So the next time you feel the heat of anger rising, give yourself permission to step back. Take a few moments to breathe, reflect, and return to the situation with a calm mind. This simple act of cooling down can prevent unnecessary conflict and help you respond with the self-control that is the mark of true strength. 10. Be kind to yourself. In the heat of anger, it's easy to forget one important thing: you're human. We all feel angry at times, and that's okay. But what often happens when we're angry is that we start to judge ourselves. We think, I shouldn't be this angry, or why can't I just control myself? We beat ourselves up for feeling the way we do, and in doing so, we add another layer of negative emotion on top of what we're already experiencing. The 10th step in handling anger is to be kind to yourself. Anger is a natural emotion. It's not a sign of weakness or failure. In fact, the Stoics believed that emotions like anger are a part of our human nature, and it's how we choose to respond to them that defines us. The key isn't to repress or shame yourself for feeling angry, but to acknowledge it, understand it, and handle it with grace. When we're kind to ourselves, we take away the power of judgment. Instead of adding guilt or frustration on top of the anger, we make space to process our emotions in a healthy way. This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it means accepting that it's okay to feel what you feel without turning it into a self-blame game. The Stoic philosophy teaches us that we can't control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we respond. By practicing self-compassion, we allow ourselves to accept our emotions without judgment, which opens the door to clearer thinking and better decision-making. Instead of seeing anger as something to be ashamed of, we can view it as an opportunity to reflect and grow. Think about it. How many times have you gotten angry, only to later feel worse about yourself because you couldn't control it? It's easy to spiral into self-criticism, but that only fuels the negative emotions. When you're kind to yourself, you break the cycle. You allow yourself to experience the anger, learn from it, and move on. So, the next time you feel your anger flaring up, pause and ask yourself, how can I be kind to myself in this moment? Maybe it's taking a few minutes to breathe, acknowledging that you're upset without blaming yourself, or simply reminding yourself that anger is a natural emotion that doesn't define you. Show yourself the same compassion that you would offer a friend in the same situation. By being kind to yourself, you'll not only handle your anger better, but you'll also build the emotional resilience needed to face future challenges with confidence and self-control. In the end, self-discipline isn't just about controlling your reactions. It's about treating yourself with kindness and understanding as you grow. The more you practice self-compassion, the easier it becomes to manage your emotions, including anger. Remember, you're learning, you're growing, and with each step, you're becoming stronger, more balanced, and more in control of your emotions. Managing anger isn't about suppressing it or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about learning to understand it, control it, and express it in a way that serves you and the people around you. Throughout this episode, we've explored 10 powerful steps to handle your anger in healthier, more constructive ways, from acknowledging your emotions without judgment to giving yourself time to cool down and showing yourself kindness. Each of these steps is an invitation to practice self-discipline, patience, and mindfulness. They empower you to take control of your emotions rather than letting your emotions control you. Remember, anger is a natural human response. It's how you choose to manage it that makes all the difference. So, the next time you feel your temper rising, pause, breathe, and think about the tools you've learned today. Whether it's stepping back, focusing on solutions, or being kind to yourself, you have the ability to navigate your emotions with calm and clarity. The journey to emotional mastery isn't about perfection, it's about progress. And every small step you take towards controlling your anger is a victory. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. If you found these steps helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us continue to spread the message of Stoicism and self-improvement. Keep practicing, keep learning, and remember, emotions don't define you. How you handle them does. Take care, stay calm, and keep moving forward.